Welcome back to our TouchDesigner tutorial. So we're going to continue from the last exercise about optical flow, and then to see how we can implement optical flow in a creative way. So this one, as you can see from the name of the project, is called Flow Mirror. So we're going to have some fun with creating a mirror like this one. I can show you immediately. So that is the thing we're going to play around with, that you can have this kind of fun by moving around in front of your webcam, and then each one of the tiny ball is actually an instance of the geometry that you can use your hand to wave and then try to rotate each of the spinning circle. So that is a kind of interaction design where you can engage in this sense of touch but without actually touching on anything. So we're going to proceed with this one. Okay, so I already completed this one, and then to work on, I'm going to delete everything and to just keep the output window with this one. So I'm going to create my output window. So that's a little bit simple in this case. So what we're going to do is, first we're going to do geometry instancing to create a whole frames of mirror, and then use it to respond to our movement in front of the camera. So in order to create that one, we're going to use a sort with a grid, which is similar to what we have done in the last exercise. But before that, we're going to have some definition of constant that we can type in, for example, like the height of our display, and also the width of our display screen. So that's the default one. And the other constant that I'm going to use will be the same as what we have done in the last exercise, that we define the number of rows. So for this one, I give it to minimal, just 9 rows and 16 column, and I shall also rename it as dimension. So we're going to use the definition to put it into the definition of the grid, and also we need to have aspect ratio, which divide the height with the width. So I name it as the aspect, and then this one will have 1 in the width and then 0.56 something for the height, which make it the same as the aspect ratio of our display screen. And then for the number of rows and column, that I will just drag it here. Okay, and then this one we're going to give it with a nose to rename it at position of our circular plane for the mirror. And then for the individual circles, so you can just add a circle, and you can also use other 2D shape other than a circle, like for example rectangle, etc. So for this one, I use it as a transform to reduce the size. So we can reduce it to 0.03 in the very beginning, and then we'll shall fine tune afterward and put it in a geometry, and also with our camera for the top is the rendered top. Okay, and then we're also going to add a constant material or pure 2D one as a material for this geometry. And then the next thing we're going to create the instancing with this position as the translate x p0 p1, and you may also want to skip this one or just keep this because we're only doing 2D representation of the mirror. So for the camera, I also use a 2D one orthographic parallel projection with the width of 1. And then we may also need to adjust a little bit because by using 1, let me have a look at the output screen first. So it might be slightly bigger than the display screen because the counting of each individual is in the center. So in that case, we may want to make it a little bit wider, like 0.1, and probably 0.2 is better to cover the whole display screen with the circles. And the next step we're going to do will be our material and the texture. So you can just drag this one to the color map. Then it will give you everything like this one. So in this case, the aspect ratio is not correct yet, and at the same time all circle actually getting the same piece of texture location, so that is not we are going to use. So the next step is we try to have some calculation in the texture surround here such that we can align each of the texture according to the portion you want to have to cover the whole screen. So in this case, we're not going to use replace, but by using transform to move around the texture information. And how we're going to create the texture information is we need to fill in the UV and probably the scale U and scale V in order to create that illusion of a mirror. So we'll do it one by one. So first of all, we need to count the number of circles that we have in this geometry. So the counting is just this one, 9 times 16. So we need to have a mass, and we name it as total. By combining the channel with multiplication, we have 144. And then we also need to do the counting starting from 0. So in that case, we minus 1 with this. So from 0 to 143, we're going to have all the instances of the geometry. So we'll make use of a pattern to help with this calculation or generation of the correct UV information. So we choose the ramp to count from 0 to 1. So instead of 0 to 1, we keep the length to be 144. So we need this one. We have 144 instance of our circle. And then the counting will be 0 to 143. So the amplitude will be this one. Okay, now we have the counting of a number from 0 to 143. in increment with 1 for each of the sample in this pattern. So the next step we're going to do is to split this one into UV, and then in this case we might need to understand the instant counting. So the bottom left corner will be like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 up till 15 here, and then 143 will be the top right corner. So that is, we need to divide the instant ID or instant number by 16 to get the row, which row you are going to have, and then we divide the instant number by 16 to get the remainder in order to get the U coordinate. So that we are going to do it now. So with this one we're going to add two expressions. There are two ways to do so. One is an expression, and the other you can do the normal math and multiplication and subtraction to work on with this one. And I try to do the faster one with two expressions. Both with this coming from the pattern. And then for the first one, the expression, we are going to do, for example, U in this case, we need to do is by taking the remainder by divided by 16. So we should have this for the calculation. And then the next question is we want to make this 16 from here. So instead of hard coding the 16, so we want to find the column. That is the second constant value, constant 1 value from this dimension. So we are going to get this from here, of the IM here and dimension, and then with the parameter palm and constant 1 value, which is essentially the same as this 16. And with the remainder, so we get a value between 0 to 15. But the calculation of UV, usually we have 0 to 1. So in that case, we need to have this one divided by the same number 16 in order to get the value, so normalized value in this case. So we're going to go to do a division, and then before division probably we might need to have a bracket to make sure this one we calculate first, and then we divide by the same number parameter 1. Okay, so now we have the same pattern but going from 0 to 0.938, which is supposedly will be the U value of the texture coordinate. And then for the second expression, we're going to do the similar type with the v dot input value, that is the value from the pattern. So instead of doing the remainder, so we actually want to divide it by 16, and then we want to get the integer value, that is the floor values, by taking just the integer part of the division of this one. And at the same time, we also want to use the variable parameter instead of hard coding this one. Okay, so we get the same things here. and 0 to h the value is, and the correct UV conversion will be like divided by 9 in this case, that is the rules. So we're going to divide the whole things. So we divide this one first. And then divided by the same of dimension. But the first parameter, constant 0 value, which is 9 at this moment. So we're going to have this one 0 to 0.89. So in that case, we can combine them, merge. And then we name it to UV. That is the UV coordinate. And then we add a null. So because we are going to add something more to this one, that will be the texture information for our mirror. So we can just put this one first in the instance 2 with the texture coordinate opt. And we only have UV at this moment, U and V. With this one, you can go to the perform mode to have a look. So now you have some displays about yourself, but it's not exactly a mirror because each of the circle actually take in some portion of your original video. Okay, and the second thing, or actually the final thing to complete the mirror will be the scale U and scale V. We need to just take one part of the whole video image from here. So we just take a portion one by one around here, so that we are going to complete this one from here. So in that case, we need to do another calculation to divide, or for each of the U, we just take 16th from the whole texture component, and for each of the V, we take 1/9 of the whole column. So we're going to do it with some simple tricks. So we define a rows with the value 1, and also a column with again 1, and then we're going to do a calculation here by mass, and then we add the original 9 and 16 here, and by combining the chop with division, so we got the division 1/9 and 1/16 around here, and those will be combined into our texture coordinate here. So we rename this one the first one with U with the row is actually the scale V, and then the second one with column will be scale in terms of U, and then we merge again to combine everything into this. So we're going to use the same sample 144 for the two of them, and then with this we go back to the geometry instancing to choose the scale U and scale V for the two of them, and then you can see roughly from the preview that you have this kind of mirror display that kind of more or less reflecting what you are playing around in front of your camera. Okay, so that is the construction of the mirror, and the second thing we're going to do will be how we can make use of movement in front of the camera by using optical flow. So in this case, we add the optical flow from the palette browser, which is here. So we connect this to the optical flow, and from the optical flow we try to consolidate with a lower resolution. So the resolution is actually the same as the element in the mirror, so it's 16 by 9. So in this case we want to have the custom resolution just 9 in the right and 16 in the X. So you can have a look from here. So if you want to display it bigger, and then I can choose the nearest pixel. So your motion in front of the camera will convert into color pixel, 144 in this case, with red indicating the shift of the horizontal movement, and the green channel is the vertical movement. So that one, similar to the last exercise, we convert it back to chops by just using the red and green channel, and then crop will be the whole image, all pixels, and then the arrangement of the channel set will just take R and G, and then the example will be 144. So that's it. We have the motion information. And the other thing, you can actually try to have a look of the range, and then you can convert this range into rotation of our mirror. So the mirror is something like you can arrange like vertically rotate. So that's in Y direction rotate. It's like a flipping by when you stroke upon each of the circular frames. So in this case, you can set, for example, the range. If it is in the range of minus 0.1 to positive 0.1, you convert it to rotation, minus 180 degrees to positive 180 degrees. So it's try to enlarge this motion into the rotation. So now you can just connect this one to the rotation as the instancing of, and then to work with. But I would like to introduce slightly better response that you can have a look. So if you don't have any enhancement, and just put it as a rotation and send it to your instant rotate of. And since it's only come with R and G, the red one is the horizontal movement. So the rotate Y actually in sync with the horizontal movement if you consider as an interaction design issue. So that will complete your exercise in some way, so that already fulfill your purpose. So but if you want to have a little bit more fun with the smooth transition or a little bit delay in your motion, so that can be done with some other enhancements, so that we can play around with this one. So first of all, we name the channel into X and Y properly, and then we choose only the X for this purpose. And with the X, so now the 144 instant actually arrange and sample. And if you want to delay or try to make some interesting movement with the number, so we might need to do a shuffle and then swap the channel and sample such that you have something like this. So the 144 instant rotation will be arranged vertically in separate channel in this case. So with this one, you can add something we have done before called filter to have a relatively smooth motion. And sometimes the motion can be too smooth in a sense that you won't notice. So in that case, you may consider to work with this slider to make it more smooth or less smooth in this case. So let me start with 0.6. So that is one option. And the other option that you can also play around with this one, I normally will do is a spring. The spring is something like a rubber band that you pull that rubber band, it won't stop at that motion. If you release your hand, it will go back in some kind of elastic movement. So it is some kind of elasticity that you can create. And again, you can also use the slider to play around with such elastic motion. In this case, probably need to have a number. Okay, so after we massage with those number in each different channel, and then we might put it back into different sample by using the shuffle again to swap this channel into sample and then send it back to our rotation now, and then again put it here to choose rotation Y as the X0. So in that case, you can see your motion is a little bit interesting in compare with the last one, because the flipping of something like corn is kind of like a little bit more obey some form of physics, that you have this kind of elasticity when you are moving around, and also you have some form of smoothing out or a little bit delay in a sense that this, which is the filtering. So if you want to have less filter effects, so you can reduce this number, and if you want to have less spring or elastic effect, you can also reduce this number, and then you can try to see or work on with your own configuration to see, for example, what type of movement. I use my mobile phone here because it's a little bit dark in terms of the color, and in that case we're a little bit more sensitive compared with the brighter background in my room. So you can see the movement with this one. So that is something that you can use it in our installation when your audience actually walk in front of your camera, that they actually the whole body movement, you kind of turn this circular image of from the mirror into some kind of elastic spring that you can have this kind of response. And to complete, you may also want to, depending your artistic judgment, that if you want to add something like a feedback, that you can have slightly motion blur for your rotation of your mirror, that give you some kind of fun in order to work with your piece of work. So that is the thing you can play around with. So if you do like 9 in this case, so the rotation of the circle actually kind of affected or created by your motion, which the area with greater motion actually will create more sharp rotation of your circle, and the area without any motion, actually the circle will remain stationary or still in this case. So that is something you can play around with, and easily you can swap it into different shape, even if you keep it like a circle. By reducing the region, you might just create a hexagon in this case, or even like a triangle or square if you want to. In this diamond shape of the square that you can play around with. And if you make each one of them slightly bigger, it's a little bit too big in this case, you can have overlapping of the diamond to create your image. And if you prefer, for example, to have smaller one that is also have some kind of fun that you can play around with. So that will be the end of this particular section, that I hope you enjoy this particular exercise, which make use of the two approaches. One approach is the instancing, that we work with texture transformation here, and the other is the one we work on in last exercise, the optical flow. So that conclude our exercise with optical flow as a creative elements or tools, and then in the next one probably we can consider how optical flow can work with some kind of game-like interface that you can play around with by moving some objects across the screen by just waving your hand or moving your body. So that will be the next challenge. So until then, enjoy your TouchDesigner work. Bye bye.